And indeed, let's turn now to our first discussion panel, and let me introduce the members for you of that panel. First of all, Barbara Thaler, member of the European Parliament. Barbara, hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Member of the Transport Committee, been in Parliament since 2019. Prior to this, was an internet entrepreneur with more than 20 years experience in information technology, in tech. So Barbara, no doubt, will be drawing on your knowledge of that in this discussion as well. We also have with us today Dr. Andrina Moreno, Technical Manager at Gas Powertrain, the Dynex Group, currently responsible for Dynex's three-way catalysts for gas-powered engines, worked in this field for many years. Andrina, thank you very much for joining us. Also joining us on this discussion panel is Cristiano Musi, who's the Group CEO at Landi Renzo. It's a company based and listed in Italy, specialising in CNG and LPG transport. Cristiano actually has a legal background, also experience in finance before joining Landi Renzo. Good to see you, Cristiano. And finally, for this discussion panel, Eric Beepus, Senior Vice President, Global Sales and Marketing at Hexagon Agility. Over 20 years experience in the sector and different companies in different geographies as well. So Eric, will be interesting to see how your experience in different areas will play into this. Eric's responsible for Hexagon's global commercial activity in the near zero and zero emission clean fuel solution vehicle segment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this first discussion panel. We're going to concentrate on technology and innovating for Fit for 55. It is a panel sponsored by REGO Europe. My first question to all of you, concentrating on innovation, I wonder whether, just briefly, if I go around the group, you could tell me what you feel is the most important piece of innovation that we already have, or that you hope to see sometime in the future. Barbara, would you like to start us off on that one?
Yes, for sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I think that, to be honest, one of the innovations we did a long time ago, and we should at least keep, is the combustion engine. I think this was a very good invention, and we should not pull this out of the market. It is about decarbonization of transport, which means it is about what we fill in, which kind of fuels we are using. So maybe you did not expect this answer with my IT background, but I think this was a very good invention.
I was almost expecting something rather digital and technical in that sort of way, Barbara. Adriana, what about you? A piece of innovation that is really driving things forward, or that has yet to be brought to market?
It answers actually both and follows up into Barbara's answer. I think the ICE is here to stay, and there's still plenty of things that can be improved. Innovations I would like to see are combustion improvements. Fuel is one thing, what you put into the engine, but how you combust that fuel and what comes out of that combustion process, there's still plenty to do there, as well as with the components that treat the gas that comes as a result of the combustion. I believe there's a long way of innovation to be done in the ICE and in all of the existing mechanisms to treat the exhaust that comes out of it.
Yeah, Cristiano, what about you?
Okay, so I think a couple of innovation. One is, let's say, biomethane. Today, we have a fuel that is carbon negative, and this is biomethane. For every kilo of biomethane we use in an internal combustion engine, we avoid 2 kilos of biomethane to go into the atmosphere. And the second are all the innovation to reduce the energy consumption of the powertrain. That could be electric powertrain, conventional powertrain, or hydrogen solution.
And Eric, would you agree with what's being said, or are you going to come up with something different?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of what everybody said already and what Cristiano said. Methane escaping into the atmosphere is 80 times more destructive to the ozone layer than CO2 is, albeit for a shorter period of time. So capturing that and burning that through a combustion engine is actually hugely beneficial. I think from an innovative standpoint, I think one of the things is the readily availableness of the biomethane today versus what it was 10 years ago. Joaquin said, there's 4,500 natural gas filling stations that utilize biomethane to a certain extent in Europe. In North America, and I'll give California as an example, for the heavy-duty commercial vehicles that are on the road in California, 92% of the natural gas they're using is renewable natural gas that is put into the grid and consumed in those vehicles. And across the United States, it's 53%. And that's really been a game changer. And we've seen fleets in North America really saying this is our best chance to reduce our carbon footprint from now into the next decade. And we see them going very heavy on natural gas infrastructure, as well as natural gas heavy-duty vehicles.
Adriana, I think I saw you nodding at Eric's answer then.
Yes, it's nice to see how these cases pop up every now and then and show you the potential that this has. And when you couple that with the maturity that the technology has, this is not something that came. It's been developed over decades. You see then the potential of how bio-friendly produced fuel with the well-controlled engine. And I touch now on the electronic part. The improvements on the electronic controls also make the engine function in a better way. And all of this put together gives you a result that's already so good. I would like to see a wider implementation of this. To have this as a means to have an impact right next decade.
So what's holding back then? What needs to change? You say you need to see this having more of an impact. What's the challenge?
I think we need to put more effort into disseminating the message and backed up with facts. Yes, there's a lot of information going around on what this is and whether it works or not. And I think NGVA is one of the organisms that has really good facts and numbers to show the benefits, how things can be combined, circularity studies. We need to work much more in disseminating the message to get and show what the benefits are, the economic benefits as well, because this is something as was mentioned earlier, that affordability is important too. We need to be able to have technologies that are affordable for a fleet operator that might be stretched on resources. So this is a valid option already now, and we have to make it more visible.
I mean, Barbara, would you agree that is a challenge?
Yes, it is, and I would like to add that at the moment the Fit for 55 package did not translate into concrete law or measures yet. So at the moment we are talking about general questions about big issues in the headlines, but we are not down to the earth and down to the legislation yet. So at the moment, the ones who are worried about the consequences, or those who show that there might be other solutions than battery electric vehicles, are disadvantaged. And without experiencing the downsides, the appreciation for the potential upsides of biogas or biofuels is also limited. And this is what I worry a little bit about. This is, I think, the discussion moment where we are in now. We are not into the deep details yet.
Why do you think that is the case? And what are the challenges then in actually getting to that deep discussion of the details that is needed?
Yeah, well, the Commission presented the Fit for 55 package in the midst of July, and in Parliament, we just a couple of days before we solved the issues of competences, which committee is in lead for which of the 12 legislations, and the decision of the Conference of Presidents was last week. So we can only start now in Parliament with our work on those 12 Fit for 55 package legislation. So we have to streamline all the legislative procedure. So the groups in the Parliament are now turning inwards to find common ground. So it's because we are just about to start.
And how do you think those discussions will go?
This will not be an easy task, to be honest. The least common denominator will not do much good. So I cannot overstress how important this ongoing process to find common ground within Parliament is. It is very important. If I may use the Eurovignette as an example, because you mentioned long haul before, with the Eurovignette we have a decent legislative framework, an European framework, but the tailor-made derogation clauses on nearly every paragraph to have flexibility for member states is, sorry for being blunt, not good enough. And I think we really need to do it right, the legislation. We need to find common grounds. We need to have underlying principles. Otherwise we will have nice headlines, but no real legislation which really gives us the chance to fulfill the goals.
Sure, and it is the substance that need. Talk is great, but it is the substance. I promise we're going to shape this discussion through the chat function. So any of your opinions and your thoughts, do put them into the chat function just to the right-hand side of where you're watching this. And I'm going to bring them in. So straight away, a question for all of you. What do we need, in your view, to make sure that the contribution and potential of gas vehicles to cut GHG emissions is recognised and further supported at EU level? So, where are the gaps? What else is needed just to make sure that the contribution and the potential is seen and understood? Christiana, do you want to start us off on that one?
Thank you, Sasha. So, I think that there are two topics. I think that, first of all, the technology using biomethane, natural gas, in the gaseous form or liquid form is ready. We work with almost all OEMs in Europe and worldwide on different solutions. And today, the performance of vehicles, LCV or truck running on biomethane is absolutely the same of any other technology. But it offers great advantage in terms of cost affordability and decarbonization of the transportation. I think, of course, we need to work on innovation, and this is what we are doing. And we are working on the two ways. One is having, let's say, we are very specialized in the feeding system, so from the regulation to the injection and the control. We are working on having more mechatronic components, so more electronic component to reduce the energy needed by the powertrain. And so to reduce, by the way, the emission. Whatever kind of energy you use, you are producing the energy, so you are somehow emitting. The second one, innovation we are doing is the blending of biomethane with the green hydrogen. Because we also believe a lot in the future of hydrogen, and blending biomethane with green hydrogen, in our opinion, on internal combustion engine with the right technology solution help to reduce furthermore the emission. So we need to work on technology, and this is, let me say, our job and our challenge. At the same time, I do agree with Andreina. We need to communicate better that electrification is not the only one solution. Otherwise, we do the mistake that it was done in the past with only diesel and gasoline. In our vision, in the mobility of the future, there will be space for different technology based on the application. So let me say, the small vehicles for the city mobility, probably electrification is the best solution. When we think about LCV on the countryside, when we think about the long haul, we do believe that biomethane today, biomethane and hydrogen in the future is the best solution. So I think we have to do effort on technology and communication as well.
That's really interesting. I mean, Adrina, you were nodding throughout that, and it's a point that you've already brought up. It's the communication, and that is what the question is asking. How do you ensure that it is recognised and it is talked about? Why is it not cutting through? What else? What more can you do?
Circumstance. We are in a phase of media where the attention is focused very tunnel-like into electrification, which, as Cristiano has mentioned, has a wealth of benefits and advantages, but it's not a silver bullet. It's not a solution that fits everything and everybody. So I think we need to get over the frenzy and open the conversation towards a more diversified future, a future that has room for technologies such as biomethane, biogas, e-fuels, hydrogen, electrification, even diesel. I mean, we have to be able to take the best out of every available technology that will cumulatively get us where we need to get. And we don't necessarily have to jump in a single bullet train to do that.
All right, Eric, how do you do it, though? How do you open that communication? How do you ensure that people listen to you when you say there are, all these different options? And
institutional or company-based advocacy. NGVA is a great example of advocacy towards showing what this technology can do. Okay. But as a private citizen, as an employee of industry, to just disseminate the message. These days, you reach one person, you reach 1,000 with a tweet. I mean, it is as simple as that.
Is that the answer? Eric, let me ask you, do you need to get on social media more then and tweet about your company and what's going on? Is it as basic as that?
It really, if I look at, there's a two-part answer to that. The number one thing that I think that would help communicate the strength of biomethane and the story that natural gas has to play is getting away from looking at only tailpipe emissions and truly looking at well-to-wheel emissions. The positive greenhouse gas benefits that biomethane brings when you look at the well-to-wheel of a heavy-duty vehicle versus a heavy-duty vehicle powered off of electricity that could be from a coal-fired plant, massive benefits, factors of 5, 6, 7x. Even so, if you look at biomethane in the future, on par with potentially blue and green hydrogen with a blend of fossil natural gas. The second part of that is I want to talk about technology that Cristiano mentioned a little bit. And from a natural gas standpoint, whether it's running on pure biomethane or a blend or fossil, the technology is there. There's no reason to wait today. And Europe has done a fantastic job of putting natural gas infrastructure in place. And the OEMs have done a good job of having factory available natural gas solutions for heavy duty long haul. Iveco, Scania, Volvo all have in-depth platforms that are available for the fleet. And if you look globally at where natural gas is being adopted the most, it's the best kept secret is European truck. European heavy-duty truck will probably do 8,000 to 9,000 natural gas vehicles this year. And that's phenomenal growth considering it's only a 5-6 year old market for them. We're seeing Cummins come out with a 15-liter engine in North America, specifically focused on heavy-duty long-haul natural gas. Scania recently announced in Europe a 13-liter engine focusing on long-haul bus applications utilizing natural gas. So the OEMs know, and there's a white paper that was done by H2 Accelerate in collaboration with Iveco, Daimler, Shell back in August, which is fantastic. And it shows they were asked, forgetting about regulations, forgetting about Fit for 55, if you look at the available technology today and out into the future, the internal combustion engine doesn't die. It stays alive through 2050 because of that high energy consumption of that heavy duty long haul. So I would say the technology's there, the infrastructure is in place, the fuel is becoming cleaner every day from a natural gas perspective. And the question really to the fleet is why wait?
Okay.
And the TCO is there as well from a cost of ownership.
Okay. We will no doubt talk a lot more about that, those sort of innovations in long haul in our second panel a little later this afternoon. You mentioned well to wheel and the way that these are calculated. And actually, Barbara, as a question directly for you, actually, as a policy maker, how how do you, or could you, or would you, or should you move from the way that you quantify these things? So you move from purely tailpipe to the well to wheel. I mean, how do you see? I saw you smile when we started talking about it. How do you change the focus? Should you, and when will it happen?
It was really good listening to all the my colleague speakers before. Cristiano said that we need to work on technology, that industry needs to work on technology, and the examples from Eric, really, I love to listen to that. To work on technology means that industry needs freedom, which means that legislation needs to be technology neutral. This is one of the underlying principles I mentioned before. What we really need is the principle of technology neutrality and life cycle measurements in all the upcoming files, in all the 12 files from the Fit for 55 package. And this is really difficult since the Commission operates with the tailpipe approach, which is obviously biased towards battery electric vehicles. So the main challenge will be to solve the measurement issue. And this is what we try to do now within the legislation process within the European Parliament, and together with the negotiations with Council and Commission later. So I think this is really the most important thing. And to be honest, there is existing legislation which gives the Commission an obligation to find measurements for life cycles. But I don't know why there is such a focus on the tailpipe approach. So this will be the turning point when it comes to the negotiations in Parliament, together with Council and Commission later on. So this will do the trick, I think.
I mean, I'm sensing a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sensing a little bit of frustration in your voice with that one, Barbara. And I wonder how you see it panning out.
With having such a full load of work on our tables and long nights of trialogues in the upcoming months, maybe there is a little bit frustration, but I don't want to focus on the negative things.
Sure.
I think if we want to get this right, we have to fight in the negotiations. This is a usual process for politicians, and on the one issue it is easier, and on the other issue it is not so easy. I hope that in the end we will have a future-proof, technology-neutral legislation to reach our Green Deal goals.
Okay. Well, we're talking about using technology and innovations to reach those green goals, driving down emissions. Let's look at what parts of the particular industry and in particular parts of technology and innovations where you feel there is more to do. I don't know whether that's something you're working on at the moment, or when you look across the whole industry, particularly focusing on the innovation and the technology. Cristiano, let me come to you first on that one. Where can you help more? What more can you do? What would you like to see?
Okay. No, thanks for the opportunity. As I said, we are working a lot. We have in our mobility group 700 employees worldwide, of which 100 in the R&D. And this gives you the idea on how important is innovation for us. So we are working on two ways. The first one is developing a feeding system, so feeding an injection system into the engine with a higher level of accuracy. So to help the OEM of having a more efficient engine, that means you need less energy. That could be hydrogen or could be biomethane. But the fact that you need less energy, you avoid, somehow you avoid emission and you avoid the waste of energy. The second point, as I said, we are working on blending biomethane with the green hydrogen. And we think this is another very interesting technology because somehow it helps the bridge toward the hydrogen mobility, that it will take time to build the infrastructure to have the green hydrogen. We also have a company, a group working on infrastructure, more precisely on the compression system for the hydrogen and natural gas refueling station. And in this case, we are working to have all oil-free compressor. So no oil in our technology on one side. On the other side, to avoid any kind of methane leakage along the system and to recover all the methane and to use the methane to have more efficient energy consumption. So, and we do see OEMs very collaborative on all of that and very involved.
Okay. Adriana, what about you? Where could the industry be doing more, concentrating more on technology and innovation? Maybe, being very transparent and open, there's an area that you feel actually more R&D needs to go into.
Yes, indeed. After treatment has a long history on this industry, but for us, innovation is focused on very specific areas. One of them is cold start. Euro 7 is coming. The power threshold is going down to 10%. That means low exhaust temperatures. A catalyst needs heat to work. So getting a technology that can answer that, it takes a lot of our R&D resources. Then natural gas engines are intrinsically hot. Once they heat up, the heat is there to stay. So thermal durability is another aspect in which we put a lot of effort because that gives durability and long-term life to your product. Poisoning tolerance is another issue. And I'm happy to hear from Cristiano that we're working on oil-free solutions because this is a big threat for the after treatment. It's a problem that you can delay, but as of today, you cannot 100% prevent. So we're working on strategies to further that delay and to make the after treatment last longer.
Do you see sort of significant progress, particularly in the cold start and the other areas that?
Yes, and for us, this is a do or die because we have to be legally compliant with the regulations. So this is for us a North Star, if you will, when it comes to planning the development for Euro 7.
Yeah. Okay, Eric, Adriana's being very open and transparent about actually where she feels more effort, more R&D, more focus needs to be, when it comes to technology and innovation. What about you? What do you think? I mean, and you've got experience in different geographies as well.
Yeah. So I think the piece that Cristiano hit on too is very important as well. It's collaborative, right? It's not just, a company, Hexagon, working in a silo to correct our product or refine our product. It's really working with the OEMs. It's working with the infrastructure facilitators to make sure that what we're designing is optimized for the particular application that's being used. And we spend a lot of time working on weight reduction. How can we take weight out of it? If we can take weight out of it, we consume less fuel. How can we make it more efficient from a fill standpoint? So that's working with infrastructure providers as well as acquiring new technology, as Hexagon has done with our digital wave product, to make sure that we can optimize the fill and make sure that if we have X amount of capacity, we're truly utilizing that for energy storage and delivering that to whatever the method of propulsion is, whether it be a fuel cell, whether it be an internal combustion engine. So a lot of work very collaboratively and openly with different partners in the industry is what we have done in the past, and we need to see more of that to ensure that from an infrastructure standpoint to the vehicle design standpoint to the energy storage, that it's harmonized. And at the end of the day, the fleet benefits from that. And there's an important thing too. All of this has to be affordable. There has to be a TCO for the fleet. If we have super expensive prototype activity, it's going to stay prototype activity. It's going to be deployed by the dozens or the hundreds. So we have to always be conscious that we have to take cost out of the product too. So the per energy unit stored, we have to have a path that says we are becoming more efficient in what we do financially as well, because that is an important piece of it, if we truly want to impact mass deployment of the technology.
Okay, Barbara, let me come to you on this one. I mean, I know you're coming at this from a slightly different angle, slightly different context. But where do you think more focus on innovation or technology needs to be within the industry, just to ensure as well that you still have that wide spectrum of possible ways forward, so that there's a different solution, the right solution to many different scenarios?
Well, being an entrepreneur by myself, I think the role of industry should be the one industry is best in, and this is finding the most competitive solution in a given framework. And it is about to push the limits of our knowledge further outwards. So it is about R&D, yes. And when it comes to the relationship between politics and industry, I really can say that we as politicians, we have to do the framework.
Okay.
Because in order to allow the industry to play this role, finding the best and maybe cheapest possible solution, we must set the framework, which allows to explore all solutions.
Barbara, I just wonder actually whether I could ask you, because anyone who follows you on Twitter, by the way, would be under no illusion how much of a Formula One fan you are. Barbara is a massive Formula One fan. And I was just, wondering, if we start looking at innovations and technology for the future and the role of gas in this, biogas in this, would you ever see a biogas powered Formula One car?
A very good question. I know that Formula One is actually having 5% biofuels in their cars, I think. So there is a lot of research going in this direction, but I'm not sure about biogas. I'm so sorry. I have to tweet and ask, and let's see what the Formula One Twitter community is answering.
Interesting, but that would surely be a very, very good advert, wouldn't it? Very much so. Just a quick couple of words from you, Adriana, on the future. What you think maybe this time next year we're going to be talking about an innovation? Quick phrase.
Almost there.
Almost there. Okay. Yeah. We'll be almost there. We'll talk about cold starts. What about you, Cristiano?
Cold start, almost there.
Okay. Cristiano?
As Barbara said, push to the limit, and push the limit on the other side.
Okay, keep pushing. Eric, this time yet next year, what will we be saying?
I would say we are there. And I think this time next year, we'll say we're surprised at the adoption we're seeing in Europe, especially on truck.
Okay, it would be good to know this time next year exactly what we are saying. And I like all your optimism. Thank you all very much, Adriana, Barbara, Cristiana, and Eric. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for your time this afternoon. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.